Hi there, welcome back to our second session this morning. The theme is, why do GS1 standards first start with the supply chain? And I think going back to Simon Walsh's intervention from the Healthcare Supply Association, he very strongly made the point about the potential of our standards in relation to improving the efficiency of the supply chain, which of course is one of the key assets we can offer alongside patient safety. So it's a great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Sara Ford. Sara.
So good morning, everybody. Nice to see some familiar faces in the room, and like all the other speakers, and I'm sure many of you here, just really nice to be back together as a group. I wanted to just start by reflecting actually what a really positive energy and vibe this conference has in the way that I think everybody here is united in trying to get to the goals that I think Julia Cumberledge laid out this morning. So it's really lovely to be invited to be a part of that. So as Lord Hunt said, Sara Ford, I'm the Director for Strategy. I lead corporate communications and marketing, and I lead the digital part of NHS Supply Chain. I'm sure many of you already know a lot about supply chain, but I'm sure there are probably some in the audience who don't. So I thought I would start with just a very, very brief overview of who we are and what we do, before then coming on to traceability and our role in enabling some of the activities that we've talked about this morning. So, NHS Supply Chain, we are here to assure, to source, to deliver medical devices and clinical consumables to the NHS. We are a part of the NHS. We formally transitioned into the governance of NHS England and Improvement in September this last year. And our role is to make sure that those products arrive, are fit for purpose, are in the right place at the right time, and in the hands of the clinicians who need them to be able to deliver excellent and outstanding patient care. We have a fairly complicated supply chain. We work with well over 1,000 different suppliers, and they provide products, everything from MRI scanners, CT scanners, hips and knees, medical consumables, through to some non-medical products as well. And we ship those in a range of different ways. Some of the products get into roll cages, which are picked to ward level and delivered into the back door of hospitals. Others get shipped direct from suppliers. So it's a fairly big and complicated organisation. We manage over 650,000 SKUs, so stock keeping units. Sorry, I'll apologise in advance for the acronyms. When you spend a long time in supply chain, it's just SKU rather than product. So when we were first set up in 2018, we started from where a journey at 40% market share. Now, why does that matter? It's not because we generate any profit whatsoever. We are here entirely to support the NHS in the delivery of patient care. But where it matters is our ability to leverage and to manage those supplier markets effectively on behalf of the NHS. And I'm proud to say over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, that's grown now. We're somewhere between 60 and 65% market share from that medical device and clinical consumables market. And our intent is very much to continue on that journey. Our priorities. So for those who have been in the NHS for some time, which is probably quite a few of you in the room, we were set up with a very clear ambition to deliver 80% market share and save the NHS 2.4 billion. And I think before I go on to talk about traceability and our role in patient safety and supply chain efficiency, I just wanted to reflect a little bit on the journey that we've been on from our original sort of incarnation to where we are now. We had our national customer board yesterday, and Simon was actually there, and there was quite a live debate about inflationary pressures, supply chain challenges, the financial pressures that are going to be facing the system in this coming financial year. So our role very much remains to drive real savings into the system and manage those cost pressures the best we can. However, we are here to do much more than that. So we have a very big focus on sustainability, as I know many in the NHS do, to achieve those net zero carbon goals. We also are clearly here to help drive operational efficiencies. So if we can do things once on behalf of the whole NHS and take time away from people in the trusts, every hour we can free up potentially can be an hour that can be rededicated to patient care, which is really what we're here to do. So let's now turn on to our role as it relates to safety and then resilience, two of the other priorities. So we see supporting patient safety as integral to our business. It's a really important part of what we do. And as it stands today, we're able to influence that in two primary different ways. The first is in a proactive way. So as we take specifications for new procurements out to market, it's really important to us that those are built and assembled in collaboration with clinical experts in their field, but that they also take into account patient safety complaints and incidents that have happened, obviously are there to manage supply chain disruption and resilience, and provide an opportunity for innovation to be brought to the NHS as well. So those essential specifications that we create take into account not only what the product needs to do, but also considers how those products will be used in a clinical setting. And we hear many stories about how if they're not specified appropriately, things can go wrong in the usage of the product. It's not the product itself that's not right, but it's how the product is being deployed that can cause the safety issues. We also have a reactive part to how we manage patient safety. So it was interesting listening to colleagues from the MHRA today and some of the systemic stuff that exists. But before it gets to sometimes being used on a patient, there are issues that are identified. Sometimes products need to be quarantined, or there are things that we're made aware of from one trust, and actually our role in the national supply chain is to be able to disseminate that information at speed and to be able to work across the country to stop other trusts inadvertently taking and using products that aren't fit for purpose or have an issue. So we're sort of the early warning sign, I guess, to some degree along that patient safety continuum. But listening to the stories this morning and thinking about where we want to go as the future, if you think about what the additional added benefit of a unique device identifier would have to our ability to deliver patient safety and contribute to that agenda, it would take what we do today to a whole new level. If I touch very briefly on resilience, so it wouldn't be right of me to stand here from a supply chain organisation and not talk a little bit about supply chains. It's such a topic at the moment for ourselves, for our suppliers and for all our customers. Whether people are focusing in the NHS about how to recover elective waiting times, how to think about how care is delivered in the community, all of those things require products and services to be there at the right scale, in the right place at the right time, and we have a really important role to making sure that we can do that. But then at the same time, I would say the global supply chain market, it's not a market, the global supply chains in many industries haven't been as challenged as they are right now. COVID has certainly played a huge role across many, many industries in causing huge supply chain challenges, and now conflict in the Ukraine is adding a different dimension to that as well. So we've got all of those things to manage. So what are we doing? So there are some simple things we can do, we are doing, which is simply hold more stock. So target that on the stock, which is critical for the function of our customers. We're looking at how we can map alternate products. So in the event that there are temporary shortages, how can trust move from one product to another seamlessly, although sometimes that might not be what they want to do, but we recognise that needs to be an option. But then more strategically, we're looking at further upstream supply chain mapping to be able to anticipate supply chain challenges before they occur. And then I think the last interesting thing we're doing, working very closely in collaboration with a number of trusts led by Oxford and UCLH, actually looking at trust order delivery levels from the trust lens. So putting ourselves in the eyes of the trust. And if this is what they've ordered, what have we been able to pick and fulfill? But what is it that perhaps we know now there are some system challenges between what we receive and what's actually sent. So trying to approach it from the trust lens to make sure we are filling every possible gap that might exist and cause challenges with resilience. But I guess why talk about resilience when we're talking about global standards? I think Philip very kindly set up the whole story, because I think if we are to be a truly resilient NHS supply chain, and by that I don't mean our organisation, but the NHS, to have a truly resilient supply chain, we absolutely need to get data standards in and right and working and effective across the board. We have been working very recently on a new 10-year strategy for the organisation. For those who read the HSJ, they may know we have a new CEO joined us back in September. And we really see a huge opportunity to take another big step forwards as an organisation in our support of what we can do for the NHS. Fundamentally, yes, we're a supply chain organisation, and what we need to make sure is that we excel in the core capabilities of procurement and in optimising supply chains, and that actually people wouldn't want to go anywhere else to buy the products that we supply. We want to make sure that we really are the best we can be and the best within the NHS. But more than that, we talked a lot this morning about data. We have some of the cleanest data in the NHS at scale. And yet we have a lot of data and we don't have the insight that we want to have. So having data and insight for me are very different things. What we really want to be able to do is make that a guiding principle for how the organisation develops and invest significantly in both the analytical capabilities to improve the operational efficiency of how we work, but to be able to offer that out to customers and upstream to suppliers, so that actually what data we gather is available and shared freely across the system. And that also relies on having the right standards and data policies in place. The top of the star talks about being easy to work with. And by that, I think there are a number of different aspects. It can be the interactions that you have with our teams that you see on a day-to-day basis. It can be some of the technologies that we provide. We have a big body of work to do with our e-commerce solution, so how you actually place orders, because at the moment we receive orders that are scanned in theatres where people are using a product and that consumption triggers an automatic replenishment. We receive orders through EDI connection through our EDC product as nurses on wards are going around and trying to work out where they need more stock, and we receive orders in our catalogue. And all of those solutions are old and fragmented, and yes, they do a good job, but as consumers, we're used to now dealing with Amazon and very different types of experiences, and we need to get the technologies that we have fit for the future and providing a much better interface and experience for our end customers. And then finally, the drive healthcare value. Clearly, the NHS is on a huge transformation journey of its own, moving towards ICS working, and where we've been largely focused on the trust side of the NHS to date, we see our role extending as we go forward to support multiple parts of that integrated care system and in a more tailored way. So to be able to support primary care, to support community care. Over time, not right now, but as the right time comes, if we've got this ability to deliver supply chain efficiency and all the other parts of the value proposition, why would we not want to offer it more holistically to the system? And then where does that leave us? So in essence, then that means we want to be able to free up the NHS to be able to, deliver even more. We had a debate on this yesterday. We're still evolving the vision statement. And actually, I think what would work better is to put the patient first. So we free up the NHS so the NHS can put the patient first. And I think that's what we're really here to do. To do that by buying smart, supplying right, and partnering. We're not a commercial entity. We are part of the system. So we want to partner with the NHS to deliver those outcomes. In being able to achieve that, and this is where it turns a little bit more now to traceability, we have, as you might imagine, a programme, and there are 7 components to that programme, and there are 2 in particular that really rely on standards and traceability. So the first one, we've talked a little bit about the e-commerce, point of care and inventory management strand of work. I talked briefly just then about being able to re-platform our e-commerce capabilities to enable a much slicker user experience. But we need to work out what our role is as it relates to providing inventory management and point of care. So it's really interesting hearing Kelsey talk this morning about the point of care solution. And we are, as actually I look over here and see Emma and Kelsey and MHRA colleagues, we are working increasingly cohesively across that national system to try and create a vision that then helps the wider system deliver on its goals. Our role in the inventory space, I think, is to enable interoperability and having the very best source of data and information to be able to drive operational efficiency. And where we can do more than that, and we have an inventory management system at the moment, where we can do more than that, absolutely continue to support that. But I think realistically, it will be an ecosystem of inventory management solutions that exist in the trust, and we need to be capable of working across all of those. The second part is really around end-to-end supply chain visibility. So I think COVID really brought home the siloed nature in which we manage our supply chains across the NHS, particularly when PPE was short at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. Knowing who had what PPE, how it was being used, how much they had left, very much a black box, and therefore knowing with scarce resources where to target that and how best to use it, incredibly difficult decisions to be taken. Now we're in a different world, but knowing the end-to-end inventory, what have we got centrally, what do people have in trusts, what do suppliers have, and whereabouts is it, and what are the lead times to getting that into the system, enables us to reduce stocks end-to-end and operate a much leaner and more efficient and effective supply chain. So that's the other part really, where actually having standards to be able to uniquely identify what those products are, have a consistent language and a consistent thread that runs through that end-to-end supply chain is really important. People often tell me, as the strategy director, coming up with a strategy and the vision is the easy bit. The hard bit is actually making it happen. I do have some sympathy with that, but it's my role also to support the delivery of that. So I just wanted to share a little bit in terms of where we are on our journey to enabling greater traceability. 5 years ago, I had colleagues tell me we had 50,000 products or SKUs with a GTIN attached. I'm really pleased that now we've got over half our catalogue, or 320,000 SKUs with GTINs attached, which makes me think then in the conversations with Kelsey and with Emma, how do we bring all that product data together to be able to share that and leverage the work that's already been done? Recognising with the questions that came earlier, we've still got an awfully long way to go, but I think that's a really good body of data from which we can start. We can have the data, but if we can't get the data out to the customers, then it's largely irrelevant. So I'm really pleased that we are making progress in being able to share that more widely. So these GTINs are available on our catalogue, they're available on our handheld devices, they're available on transaction reports. But for those who work with us closely, you'll know that we're on a big transformation journey of our own technology. We're relying on a 20-plus-year-old, very old system to run our warehouses and an order management system. We really need to get off that onto modern technology. We need to re-platform our catalogues, and we're designing those with these data standards in mind to be able to take the data from the suppliers, host it and pass it on as we need to customers. And then that speaks to the next point. So all our Oracle Item Master, our product hub as we call it, has been designed to be able to capture GS1 attributes. And I think the really exciting stat on here for me is actually around how many suppliers to us are already GS1 members. 80%, that's a huge number. So quite whether or not they're all supplying the right data at this point is probably a separate thing, but at least there's an interest and an understanding potentially of the importance of this to the system as a whole. So I just wanted to finish on one final slide, our traceability goals going forwards. So I think it's fair to say we have made some really good progress, but I think like all of us here today, we all have a sense that there's so much more that we need to do, that we can do, but that we should do. And for me, the exam question for today is how, who, when. And I think to a degree, looking forward to the MHRA and the publication of that information, which I think will just unlock something to enable multiple parts of the system to use that ammunition and to drive this agenda forwards. So we intend to refine and sharpen our pencil, as it were, in terms of our policy position on this. But absolutely, we are committed to making sure that we have all implantable devices with a UDI, and over time that extends to other product categories where there are benefits and where there's merit in doing so. We're committed to making sure that our supply chain systems that we're putting in over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years absolutely can manage this data and can be used to share this data from suppliers and onto trusts so that we can actually help support enhanced traceability. And then our third goal is really around playing a material role to support trusts in their inventory management activities where we can. And clearly, we're all under huge financial pressures and constraints and things. But if we can work as a system to try and find solutions, then I think that's our best way through over the next few years. So I just simply wanted to say that hopefully that's helped explain supply chain sort of stance, position, commitment to the whole patient safety and joining the dots, as it were, from an inventory perspective. We are here and committed to making this a reality, and we know that we have an important role to play, but we can only do this if we all work together. Thank you very much.
Sara, thank you very much indeed. And I think for me, it was magic seeing you talk about your work supporting the safety agenda. And we're beginning to see how these link together in such an important, powerful way. So we've talked a lot actually about devices, but of course medicines and vaccinations really come into play as well. And it's a great privilege for me to invite Ulrika Kraser, who has been such a supporter of our work from GS1 Global, to come and make a presentation on the global vaccination programme and some of the great challenges we've seen and its applicability to traceability. Ulrika.